giving presentations.
Thank you so much. I think it is my pleasure and an honor to present my understanding of the gemstone world in this August audience, and also it is honor to follow up from a learned gemstone specialist. It's a difficult task, but I will try to do it. I will try to present my understanding of a very difficult and complex world of gemstones, and this I have gathered through working in this industry, primarily for exploration and development in many countries for last 11 years. So I would try to make it very generic, not very specific to any particular gemstone, but try to get my experiences across of how we have been working on this wonderful commodity, and how we need to why I think it needs to be discussed, because there is a lot of mystery surrounding this gemstone sector. Let me try to share my screen so that I can put my presentation. Is there any option to share my screen? Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you. Yes, I think what I will run through. Yeah, I think I'll have 30 minutes. I guess I'll try to wrap it in 25 minutes so that I can have 5 minutes of interaction. What I thought important for us is that we all awed by the gemstone. When you see, I'll not specifically talk about any particular gemstone, but all the characteristics and all the resources that we saw for gemstones. How do you develop? So my focus is primarily on the development of gemstone resources. So what comes to my mind or anybody's mind when we talk about gemstones is that they're bright, they're beautiful, they're mysterious in many senses. They have got a lot of usage, including astrological, starting from industrial to beauty and gemological and in jewelries. We can see them divided with precious and semi-precious. We call ruby, emerald, sapphire, which is on my screen, both in a rough and a cut form. I don't know why they're called precious, but they're the one who has got bigger revenue potential, so they sell it at higher prices. And there is semi-precious. Rest of all the color and bright stones are under the semi-precious category. We tend to believe they're expensive, and rightly so, but when you see the presentation, you feel that not all the gemstones are expensive, not all the qualities are expensive. The price difference between the lowest quality and the highest quality can be as high as 1 million times. So the lowest one is sells, let's say, for $1, the highest one would sell for $1 million. So with all this background, what we understand is.
Can you make it full screen, sir?
Okay, I will do it. Just a second. Is it better?
No, sir,
Bigger?
it's not coming. I think you have not shared the full entire screen.
Right.
Okay, let me do it again.
All right. Yeah.
Yes, sir, it's coming.
It has come? Okay. I think, so what I was telling is that we tend to believe that they're expensive because they are rare, and rarity is definitely one of the characters of the gemstones, which makes it valuable. But when I go to my just a slide which I borrowed from Dr. Jayenda, is just put a slide showing where where are these gemstones? So if I put every point into the map, I've taken it from Mr. Das, is that we can see that they're distributed all across the globe in different parts. Some of them are famous, some of them are not. But at least, we really cannot see that it is very rare. So what makes it limited, what makes it rare, and what makes it expensive is obviously some kind of a combination of different characteristics. We call it 4C. We call it color, clarity, carat and cut. We know all these things, but apart from that, there is also another factor which plays is the provenance, like where it is coming from. So obviously Kashmir sapphire is much more valued than the Nigerian sapphire maybe, or Montana sapphire. Similarly, Burmese rubies were one of the sought after rubies in the past. My point is, they're not only rare, they're also provenance plays a role in deciding what value it has. Why I'm placing a lot of importance on value, because I'm going to talk about how to develop a mineral resource. So I do have to consider on the economic potential of developing a gemstone mine or gemstone resource. So all my focus is not really focused towards the beauty of the gemstones, but how to take this beauty out of the ground with an economic potential. Before going into the details of it, I just wanted to present a picture of the gemstone world, what we call an anatomy of a colored gemstone sector. What I'm showing in three different graphs here is the geography on the top left, like where they are mined. If you look at, I've taken, or at least taken from a report which talks about diamond, ruby, emerald, and sapphire. Then there is a geographic distribution of the production volume, where it is coming from. Like let's say the rubies are coming from Burma and Mozambique and other East African countries. The emeralds are primarily coming from Zambia and Colombia. And sapphires are coming from Australia, Sri Lanka, and Madagascar. So this is where the volumes are distributed, and I have the privilege and good luck to work on most of the bigger deposits in emerald, ruby, and sapphires in all the countries. So that's where they have been mined, and my experience comes from them. But if you look at the value chain, this is different. So this product then comes to a different geography where the value addition happens, like cut, polish, and set into jewelry. So if you look at emerald, they come to India. If it is ruby and sapphire, it goes to Thailand. The diamond is all cut in India in one Western cluster in India. So that's the way the product is comes from somewhere. It goes to another country, gets value added and sold. But if you look at who mines them, or where do you get them? So what we know for sure is that this industry in the initial stages was only reliant on artisanal miners. Artisanal miners, you can call it, community miners, citizen miners. Some even, treat them as. So these people, they kind of, and I'll explain later in my talk is how they're most important in terms of development of any gemstone resource. So what we have seen is, as the industry gets more organized and it gets more systematic, the role or the share of the artisanal miners reduces, as you can see in case of the diamond, because it's a very old industry, gone into a very structured and structural changes in terms of investment and mining. So they have a lot of international companies are mining, and the share of the artisanal miners have reduced. In contrast, sapphires have not been taken up in that way. So sapphires are still mined mostly by the artisanal miners. Whereas the emerald, having two companies, Gemfield and Fura, with them coming in, the international companies have got much more percentage of share of mining revenue. And ruby is also similar. The centers are moved probably from Myanmar to Mozambique with a new discovery. And there also the international companies like Fura and Gems have mined most of the rubies coming out of that. So on the left hand side, I'm talking about the gemstone sector, color gemstone sector. So I will now dissociate from diamond completely. I'll only focus on the color gemstone. They are discovered by and worked by artisanal miners. Their access to land is sometimes not legal. Their mining is considered not responsible because they don't, care for a lot of the factors that we will discuss later. As I said, that they are highly and extremely variable unit value, and they are very difficult to evaluate. I'll come to that also. They pass through complex processing options, both from ore to product and then enhancement of the product. But we also realize that this transfer from the mining of the emerald, sapphires and rubies, when the transfer to the processing centers of India and Thailand, they are not very transparent distribution systems. That's why the industry is highly fragmented, but very specialized. And a lot of the jewelry industry is actually the family-owned enterprises. So that's the kind of overview of the gemstone sector, as you see. I'll try to break it down into simpler terms. And so I've got like very few slides. I have 11 slides only. So what I will tell you is that, I don't want to stress on this slide too much because gemstones are special. We all know it because, they manifest themselves as a colorful, bright, and an attractive, commodity. But what I'm just trying to tell you is that the characters which make it special, or the characters which makes it attractive, is very difficult to quantify. There is ways to quantify them, but they are very subjective parameters. And in terms of identifying them, what we think is that what are the parameters which identify and help us identifying the deposit is, let's say, the color, the sparkle, the hardness, or the transparency. Is there any way I can identify those parameters in a geological setup, or any method which helps me identifying those parameters in a mineral deposit? Probably no. So what we have to do is, when we are looking for gemstones for the geological resource and mining target, we have to rely on indirect ways of how to find them. Like, let's say, physical characteristics. So we know that ruby and sapphires are heavy; they have a high specific gravity. So what we assume that they must have been weathered and concentrated in some place, either colluvial or alluvial environment. So my point is, they not only are very special, but they have, what makes them special is not difficult to define in geological terms. That's the first point. The second is, obviously, they're incredibly, so I'm just, because I'm trying to put all the gemstones into one basket, I'm telling that they're very difficult in terms of, rightly so, because they have different geological formation, their genesis are different, the characteristics of deposits are different, distributed between primary and secondary deposits. But what all these variations is that we have to, do not have a standard template for defining the exploration process for the gemstones. We have a standard template, let's say, for gold. Even if you take one particular style of mineralization for gold, let's say VMS, there is a particular way in which we'll have to systematically approach a VMS type of gold deposit. But we do not have a standard template available as yet for any gemstone. So the other thing that which controls the price, and that controls the economic viability of any deposit, is also very difficult to control. Let's say transparency, like it's very difficult to predict. Even if we collect 1 kg or 5,000 carats of gemstones, how much of them would be brighter color, how much of them would have more transparency, because this is not a geological process which controls them, or it's not very directly linked, or it's not very easily correlated. So that's why I'm saying they're special, and they are incredibly varied, and they have a very high variable pricing curve. When we talk about all this complex situation, and we want to think that whether to mine a deposit or not, and we want to develop the mine as a gemstone target, is there any standard formula that I can follow? Probably not. In a typical mineral resource development project, be it bulk minerals or base metals or precious metals, what we are talking about is there is a concept. We have a pre-discovery phase. There is a discovery where we have discovery phase. We have a resource definition. We have to bring in the drilling rigs. We have infill drilling. We have geostatistics. We have modeling. We have a resource. Then we take it to a feasibility stage, whether this resource can be mined effectively, whether the ore can be processed effectively, whether this is really a viable project. So we call it a feasibility. But because in this gemstone sector there is no resource to start with, it's even very difficult to go to the feasibility and development and startup and processes. And that also makes it difficult for anyone to believe. So if some investor wants to believe on you that you are telling him the truth, he would ask, like, can you tell me the reserves? He is not even talking about resources. Can you tell me what price it is going to achieve in the market? And can you tell me what is your premium or the best quality stone out of this whole you are thinking is going to produce? So what I'm trying to tell you is that the timeline and the activities for a gemstone deposits are completely different than any other commodity that we know. Obviously, with that also are the different risks associated with the development of a project. But we know that a lot of these risks associated cannot be waived off in a gemstone operation. They are inherently a very risky proposition. That's why the banks obviously have a funding risk, so they don't give money to develop a mineral resource. There are technical risks because technically a lot of the parameters can only be derived from the resources which we do not have. Obviously, exploration risks are also there because we do not know how a limited data set can predict the future of a long-scale operation. So with combining everything, what we are saying is that we do not have a standard template for developing a gemstone sector. If I divide them into secondary and primary deposits, secondary we know obviously some characteristics like gravity or specific gravity of the gemstones can be an concentrating factor. Some cases like emeralds, they can never be concentrated in a gravity process. So those are the things which we have certain templates available for ruby and sapphire because we are looking them as a paleo channel or paleo alluvial concentrated deposit. So there are some templates are available, like the Mozambique and Australia. They're kind of a similar strategy, but inherently, but they're slightly different in their approach. But some of the primary deposits, like we are mining in Zambia, the emerald deposit is a huge operation with big resources. There, we can actually borrow some of the exploration and mining practices from the large-scale operation and still use them in the large-scale primary deposits. If I go to, like, if this is so complex, how we are doing it, or what is the best way, according to me, is to follow, it comes from a long history of artisanal operations by thousands, sometimes even hundreds of thousands of people in some of the countries. A case in example is Madagascar, which has taken these 3 photos. So they are brazing everything to soft rock to to hard rock, marble, and digging consistently. And their knowledge is far more superior and far more, deeper than even all the geologists that we try to hire and try to work on this deposit, because they have been doing this in a systematic, or not a systematic, but at least in a sustained way for a long time, through generations probably. So what we see is, they give us a lot of indication. So my first takeaway is that the gemstones are rare, they're unique, they're complex, but there is no standard template available. But there is a catch, is that we can actually rely on the artisanal miners for discovering the deposits, which can be large scale. So what I'm saying is that most of the large established mining districts of the world, for any mineral, emerald, ruby, sapphire, anything that you see is the gift of the artisanal miners discovering it. Not only they discover it, they provide a very good insight into operation sustainability. Like some deposits, people go there, mine, and they vanish in few months, but we see that a lot of the operations have actually sustained for a long time. They also give us a potential pricing, because the product goes to, for a long time, goes to the markets, and what price they're sold for. They also give us a lot of hint about how you are going to process them. So if I go and watch them for months, then I can know that what is their preferred way of washing, what is the preferred way of segregating the fractions, minor sizes and all. So I think the best option for us to develop the gemstone operations is to understand and learn from the artisanal miners. So that's my second takeaway, is that we have to learn completely from the artisanal miners. We have to then go through what we call a exploration or a bulk sampling phase. So which means that it is not artisanal, it is not a large scale, big, humongous operation, but it is somewhere in the middle. And the bulk sampling sizes primarily varies between, let's say, 10 to 30,000 tons of ore. So first we have to watch the miners, artisanal miners, understand what they are interested in. That's the ore for us. We would design a plan that how can I mine 15 to 30,000 tons of that kind of a material and process. And on the way, I just keep note of everything. I keep note of, let's say, what is my mining rate, what is my mining cost, what is my ore recovery, what is my OB versus ore distribution, the stripping ratio, what is my equipment productivity. So all these things, I just keep note of them, and just that becomes my database on which we have to design the large operation. So you can see on the bottom, the right side is a bit of a bigger bulk sample done by the artisanal miners, whereas towards the left is the excavator is doing a small sample pit where we will understand the characteristics of the deposit. It's a bit of a complex slide, but I just taken this slide from a typical mine development workflow. What I'm saying is a lot of this, maybe I can draw if I can quickly. Sorry, yeah. So towards the left is exploration and feasibility. What I'm saying is that if you watch enough of this artisanal miners, you can actually understand the geological information, reconnaissance, prospective area. They also give you a lot of data for subsurface information, because you saw them digging down right up to 30-40 meters, so that you can use them as a drilling source. Similarly, we can get a lot of information from them about the mineral extraction processing, how they are processing them in the nearby river. So this information is already pre-available with them. What we can use this to information and start working on a design and planning stages. So my point is, a lot of this value chain has all been taken care of by the artisanal operator. We just have to go and start working on these modules, um, and create a template. Once we have in this bulk sampling phase, which is this phase here in the middle, then it is easy because, as I said, the processing parameters are not very difficult. So for the gemstone operation, so it doesn't really need a scoping study for the processing. It just goes into the last phase, which is mine closure and post mining land use, which is also two of my focus when I'm doing a gemstone mine, because gemstones are only for the for a luxury industry, and there is obviously a lot of scrutiny for how you mine and how you do it, unless it's not a iron ore mine. So you have to be very focused. So one way my focus is to make it large scale and mechanized towards the top left corner to make it economically viable. Whereas as we progress, when it becomes a big mine, our focus shifts to how do we make it sustainable in every term. How do we make it more ethical? Talk about child labor, human rights and all those issues, because of you are working in close proximity with the artisanal miners most of the time. And then also how to make it more responsible. I cover responsible for everything, like how could we be more environmentally responsible? How could we be more responsible towards the society? So I think it covers a lot of aspects which we need to be focusing on as soon as the project is established. Okay. So I'm running a little bit behind, but I'll rush through. The third point, what I'm talking about, is the ore processing and value addition. When I mean ore processing, it is about once you've identified at the site what is the ore, how to kind of sort the ore so that take out the product out of them, the gemstones out of them. And once I've identified the gemstones of all the qualities, we need to go through what we call a value addition process. Value addition can be simply grading, or separating them into different grades which the market wants, or it could be value addition through treatment. So all this also is a very significant part of any development story for any mine. So what we need to understand is every gemstone has got unique physical, chemical, and color and fluorescence characteristics. So what we do is that we try to study them, and ultimately different parameters tells us how to extract them. So I'll just put two photos. Most of the ruby and sapphires are through gravity separation, through jigging or dense media separator, because they're heavy. So we need to take them out. So a typical setup would be something like this. This is the Fura plant from Australia. But when the physical characteristics are also not very prominent and like emerald, but they have obviously color and fluorescence, so they fluoresce at a certain wavelength. Dr. Sigle was presenting that one. So what we do is that we just put them through a process where we put fluorescent light and a camera and a computer. So what they do is that as soon as it sees the fluorescence, it just ejects to a different box. So that's the optical sorting that we do. But what I'm saying is that we have to study all this, physical and chemical and color fluorescence properties to identify what is the best way to segregate them. So then this, once you have found your stones, what they go through the final sorting, grading, and classification, so that you can supply to the targeted buyer. We do have a lot of other ways to understand how we can also treat them to make it better. Like we can improve the color, we can improve the clarity and the saturation. So if there is any way we can do it, we will also do it through the value addition process. Last but not the least, what I'm saying is, if I have to develop this gemstone resource, I think about the bulk sampling phase where we are collecting every information. It's like a very minute details of mining, geology, processing, grade, and we create a comprehensive database, analyze them, and decide that, what is my mining parameters? What are my cost parameters? What is my geological understanding? all these things will be, telling me how do I develop this mine? What is the path it follows? And this will also tell that if you have to scale up, because bulk sampling is a small scale, it doesn't really make money. But to make a profitable or a sustainable economic deposit, we have to take this to scale. So this bulk sampling phase defines my scale and throughput, which defines the profitability of the operation. So with my experience, it normally takes a couple of years of bulk sampling with a robust database, which is also an exploration phase. We can decide on the large scale operation and which can be optimized for processing and value addition workflows. That's kind of a summary of the gemstone sector. If we have to develop this sector, what we are saying is that gemstone industry has got a lot of complexities for exploration, mining, and valuation, but at least it has evolved a long way in last 30 years when I say colored gemstones. But if I look at diamonds, they themselves have developed over a long period, probably close to now 90 years. And that's why you see that industry is much more developed. Their sciences is much more refined. Diamond geology is well known. Diamond mining is well known. Diamond processing is well established. The grading system is standardized. So my point is, emerald, ruby, and sapphire, the color gemstone sector is yet to catch up on the understanding. It is improving in last 20 years, but I think there is a long way to go. What I'm saying is that with diamond leading this knowledge curve, knowledge and trade, because they go hand in hand, it is easy to follow good examples in color gemstones like Zambian Colombian emerald, mined by Gemfield and Fura. There are Mozambican rubies also mined by Gemfield and Fura. There are Australian sapphires mined by Fura. So there are a lot of good examples which are now being available. So eventually they will, create a template which others can learn and do it. We have to keep thinking about the new business models. We have to invest on, understanding of the ore genesis, how to find out in a quicker way, how you will create a resource. We are saying that there are no resources available, but Zambia has got a mineral resource for emeralds because they have drilled close to 90 kilometers. Is there any way to develop a resource, drilling less, doing some more geophysics? I don't know. But we have to understand that resource model. Obviously, once the resources are ready, probably people will trust more industry, and the banks will probably have more financing available. The investors come in to invest, can be listed in the stock market as well. The governance of the whole, gemstone value chain, the policy, mine development, the processing, the value addition, distribution, and revenue. These are slowly getting developed, and I'm very sure in the next 5 years there will be standard templates available for each of the other models. Having said that, even if it looks very difficult, gemstones have the shortest gestation period. In my lifetime, I have, in a very short period of 2 to 3 years, we have acquired, developed, mined, produced, sold, and got the revenue back to the mine in less than even 2.5 years, 2 years. So it is very, unknown or unheard in other industries. The base metal and the gold industry takes 10 to 15 years of gestation period. So what I'm saying is that gemstones are very short gestation period. They recover investment faster, but they are the riskiest business model. We have to also appreciate that. I think what also is important, I did not stress enough on that, is that when you do this in the right way, ethical, sustainable, and responsible way, what we can do is that the pricing of the gemstones can also be multiplied even by 15 to 20 times if we do it right. And that's one of the factors which will drive the profitability and development of the colored gemstone sector. Thank you so much.